सहनाववतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यङ्करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। वसुदेवसुतं देवं कंसचाणूरमर्दनं देवकी परमानन्दं
आनन्दं
कृष्णं
कृष्णौ
वन्दे
वन्दे
जगद्गुरुं
जगद्गुरुम्
समस्तजनकल्याणे निरतं करुणामयं नमामि चिन्मयं देवं सद्गुरुं ब्रह्मविद्वरम्। Ritu, you're going to do recap?
Yes. So last week we talked about chapter 13, and this is the beginning of the third part of Gita, as it's divided in three big sections, you can say. The first 6 chapters talk about karma, which is more about individual. Next 6 chapters are more on bhakti, which is about Ishvara. And the last 6 chapters are about jnana, jnana, the unity of this individual and Ishvara. So the chapter 13 is the beginning of that third section. There's a lot in this chapter that I never understood before until, the way you described it, Shashiji. So we started with talking about the known and the knower. The known is any objects, things that are around me, but then also my fingers or my eyes, the body parts, and even my emotions and conditions of the mind. That is something that is known. And then the one who is seeing all this is the knower. So this knower is the Kshetragna. And this is the life-giving principle without whom nothing is known. Is the knower of the field, of the objects, which is Kshetra, or also Prakriti, that comes from Maya Shakti. And Nayam is the one to be known. Jnanam is what we need to understand the distinction between these. In Shloka 13.6 and 13.7, it says that all objects have some combination of, well, it doesn't, I think it was the explanation of these shlokas. All objects have some combination of all the 5 elements, including we ourselves and our sense objects. It is all matter and energy. Even our thoughts and emotions, which are energy and impulses, some of it is manifest, some is unmanifest. All these things are kshetra. And in each one of us, there is a knower. So is that knower different from one to the other? Bhagavan says, no, there is only one knower, and that there is no division in this consciousness. There is only one self. The example is light or electricity in its different forms, giving us light and as working in different appliances, etc. Jnanam is, to gain jnanam, you have to make yourself a fine instrument by cultivating your values, your mind, making your mind peaceful and pure. And to make this mind pure is by living your values. And that's how we prepare to gain this jnanam, to understand Kshetragna, our true identity. The shlokas 13.8 to 13.12 tell us about 20 values with which we can gain this purity of mind. And when we exhibit these values, it becomes a virtue. And these values are important for our peaceful coexistence. So some of them, just to mention a few, are non-arrogance, forgiveness, respect, firm conviction, self-control, dispassion. In the shloka 13 point, the 14th shloka in this chapter, says that there is one Paramatma everywhere. And if when we understand this principle, the sense of individuality goes, and I become a part of this Paramatma. Whatever abilities I have also belong to the Lord alone. Even my thoughts would not happen without Lord's grace and blessings and presence. And by knowing that, I can then understand that there can't be a low self-esteem. There can't be any misery after understanding that Paramatma alone is my own self functioning through my equipments, and and that brings me to the true nature of this Kshetragna, which is Satchit Anand. In the Shloka 23rd, we see different names of God, which also have the same meaning. We talked about names like Anumantha, which is when the god becomes permitter of permitting what's happening. Bharta, which is the nourisher or provider. He can be the bhokta, which is when our majority of ego is gone, we realize that bhokta. When most of the ego is gone, we realize that he's like Maheshwara. Um, and so those are the different names of the gods. In Shloka 26, we see that when if you find all these paths difficult, you can follow your guru's instructions with faith, and by doing that, you will also cross over death with your shraddha and buddhi, which is faith and logical thinking. The inquiry with desire to know is a good thing on this path. And then in the next couple of shlokas, it was that that person through all, who can see through all the differences to see one Paramatma and one that sameness everywhere, has the right vision. And such a person never degrades. When we recognize same Paramatma everywhere, that person has reached the highest, the supreme truth, the supreme truth, which is unborn, immutable, imperishable, existing everywhere, untouched by anything else. Just like the space in two shlokas 33 and 34, it talks about the space which is all pervading. It is undivided, unbroken. It is not different in different places. It does not get affected by other elements. And and such is our Atma, like this untouched space. It's just one consciousness everywhere. And just the way the sun illumines our entire universe and is untouched by everything else in this universe, such is the way of our Atma, or Satchidananda, the nature of which is Satchidananda. And that's the summary that I have written.
Perfect. Excellent. Very, very good. Nothing to add. We'll move now with the next chapter, which is called. Why is it not moving? Okay. It's called the Gunatraya Vibhaga Yoga. Now, this is the 14th chapter, a very practical chapter. See, I've told you, starting from the 13th chapter, Bhagavan, of course, gives clarification about his highest nature, which is your and my nature. Okay? So Bhagavan wants to finally, that's what Bhagavan wants us to get to. to understand our true nature. When we understand we are eternal, we are unchanging, and untouched by happenings, even as we live in this world, he says, then you can bring the best out of yourself and play this game of life. Because life is going to happen. So at least you know how to play this game of life when you come from that standpoint with that vision. So he wants us to have this vision, but he knows all of us. He knows that we're all at different levels, different stages in our, our own self evolution, transformation. So you see, throughout, he's been so compassionate. See, Lord, throughout, not only is giving us the highest vision of who you and I are, who are you really? He says that. At the same time, practical points. He started with our duties and responsibilities, where we are, right? And asked us to change our attitude. And then he started giving us some instructions, even on meditation practice. How much he gave us, right? Clear instructions on how we should meditate in 6th chapter. Then afterwards, he started showing us, look, this Lord is everywhere, and that means you're not excluded. Neither is your best friend or your worst enemy. So he showed us in everything, Bhagwan said, how I am there, that your true nature is everywhere. He pointed that out. And then he said, come to me through bhakti, leaf, a flower, a fruit, whatever you can offer, start with that. And also make sure that you come to the highest. Don't stay just there. Don't keep Bhagwan in. And not only that, our worship of the Lord, which we think is mainly in puja rooms and in temples, he always wants us to bring that out. Okay, so practical everywhere. And then when he comes to the topic of kshetra, starting the 13th chapter, then he started talking about the values that we should cultivate. Anything that one of them you take and you practice it sincerely, he says, even that will bring you that peace of mind. So then the clarity, so then you will absorb the knowledge and come to know who I am. So this is the whole thing of the Gita. Not only the highest principles are given, he also gives us practical means to get there. And so many times he points out examples of that person who's achieved that, so that we can say, aha, I want to be like that. Oh, is this the benefit I'll see in my life then? So that then we will walk towards it. Then it will seem attractive towards us. How compassionate and how systematic is his teaching. Okay, now we come to a very practical chapter called the Gunatraya Vibhaga Yoga. And here, we've just now heard in the 13th chapter that Prakriti, remember, Purusha is the one who's giving us life, enlivening this body. And Prakriti is everything else, meaning our physical body is made up of matter, our mind, our thoughts and emotion is all subtle matter energy, and of course senses, of course our breathing, of course our digestion, all matter energy. So the whole package is Prakriti, he showed us. Now we have to understand that Prakriti means gunas, sattva, rajas, tamas. And we'll explain some more. Okay. Now, if we just think we're this physical body, if I just identify with my mind, I'm remaining at the level of Prakriti, right? And then what happens? With anything that happens to our mind, our physical body, and somebody says, just gives us a one look like this, we will shrink and we'll go down. That means we're totally under the influence of what is happening at Prakriti level. So Bhagwan wants us to rise above that, because he says, don't stay there. It'll cause you a lot of problems. So he's going to talk about Prakriti in detail here. What are those gunas, which are the constituents of Prakriti? How do they express in your and my life? How do they create problems for us, which we call as bondage here? And how can I find out that? And if I find out that, how can I get over it, right? And then when we see that, when we see how these gunas play in our life, right, how they sort of have their hold on us, then we can actually become masters of our own gunas. And that means even our own mind. This is where we're going in this chapter. So then we can get over their hold, right? Not only do we understand our own minds, we can actually even see others and say, that person is behaving because that is their gunas playing. What can you do? So we become more and more accepting too. Huh? Okay. And not only that, we no longer constantly feel victimized, right? We are actually masters of ourselves. We don't feel like victim of circumstances, victim of somebody said this. No, we now know we are where we are and we become masters, right? And with that, we also understands others and we become accepting. In life, we constantly complain, "Arey, nobody understands us." We keep saying that. But first and foremost, we should understand ourselves. From babyhood, we are living with this mind. Have we understood our mind? Do we know our mind properly? Its workings? Do we know that? I cannot tell you there cannot be a greater book on psychology, greater chapter on psychology than this chapter. It's incredibly practical, very beautiful to understand ourselves. So we'll know how the mind functions. So Bhagwan now will start by saying, look, I'm going to tell you something. I gave you a lot of knowledge, right, about your highest nature, that kshetrajna, that purusha, that ne vastu. I spoke about that already. I also sort of showed you the field, the prakriti and everything. But understanding all this, you get Param Siddhi, he says. And in these two shlokas, let us please repeat after me. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha
श्रीभगवानुवाच
Param Bhuya Pravakshyami.
परं भूय परक्ष्यामि
It's Pravakshyami.
प्रवक्ष्यामि
Jnananam Jnanamuttamam.
ज्ञानानां ज्ञान उत्तमम्
Yajñatva munayas sarve.
यज्ञात्वा मुनयः सर्वे
Param siddhim ito gataha.
परां सिद्धिम् इतो गताः
Idam jnanam upashritya.
इदं ज्ञानम् उपाश्रित्य
Mama sadharmyam agataha.
मम साधर्म्यम् आगताः
Sarge pinopajayante.
सर्गेऽपि नोपजायन्ते
Pralayena vyatanti cha.
प्रलयेन व्यतन्ति च
So Bhagavan is starting this chapter by saying, I'm going to tell you something by which, knowing which, great people, the wise people who have practiced all this, will get the supreme goal. They'll attain the supremmost, Param Siddhi. So Param Siddhi means this is the highest. So what is this Param Siddhi? He says, you have to know the understanding of your mind. You know your mind, you know the workings of your mind, and you transcend above it. Now, what is this transcend? All we mean is know your workings of your mind and go beyond it means know what makes even your mind function. What is that which remains untouched even with whatever happens at the level of the mind? Meaning understand your supreme nature. That's all. Transcending the mind means understanding your supreme nature. But before that, of course, we have to understand what our mind is too. So Bhagavan will give us all that, everything he'll say. So he says, you come to know this right knowledge, which I'm giving you, that you are Sat, Chit, Ananda. Okay, you are complete, you're perfect, right? You understand that, then you yourself, become that complete, fulfilled Satchidananda. You'll know that. And then what happens? Because what is the effect of all these things? Then right here, no matter what happens, we can remain like a lighthouse, untouched by all the, whatever bangs we get in life, the curveballs that are thrown to us, the tossings of the ups and downs of life. We can remain unshaken. Not only that, even death, we are not scared anymore. We are fearless and we go beyond it. Meaning, Bhagavan is trying to tell us that, look, even if pralaya happens, you're one with me, nothing happens after that. You're not reborn again and again and again and getting caught in samsara chakra. get this great knowledge, this supreme knowledge which is beyond your mind. And then when you get this, you get that, param siddhi, which wise people get. And then you're not caught in the tossings and ups and downs of all this, world, samsara anymore. You're not born again, he says. So now we hear often, you have to build your lives and face lives as it comes. You can only face lives as it comes depending on what our understanding is, right? When, if I think life is always misery, everybody's saying all these wrong things, and people are bad, this is bad, that situation is bad, everything we view with those colored glasses. Huh? So what happens? Then anything of the outside world will shake us, will make us, feel not strong, and we crumble at everything. Any little ups and downs, we can't face it properly. We get sort of, shaken by everything, is what I'm trying to say, including slight comments from people. So we're like that dry leaf which is tossed up and down. You know how we see in the autumn, the leaves are floating everywhere, like that we become. What's the quality of our life then? Bhagwan doesn't want us to live like that. So he says, you get that state of perfection. So basically he's saying, you understand you're that Purusha, that you are that Supreme Satchidananda. And because of that, this whole matter is functioning. Whole matter, including all your thoughts, are happening because of that. Your activities are happening because of that. Not only within, but without. You remember that. So all he wants us to remember constantly is our true essence. Then everything else is Prakriti, matter, energy, matter. You understand that, he's saying. Sounds great, Bhagwan. I love that. Huh? But how do I go beyond what this you calling is Prakriti, right? Then you say everything is made of that. I still think I'm this Prakriti, this body. My mind is still tossing me up and down. How do I go? Let's first understand that, he says. And now comes this another shloka now where he says, Sattvam Rajastama iti.
Sattvam Rajastama iti.
Guna Prakriti Sambhavaha.
Guna Prakriti Sambhavaha.
Nibadhnanti Mahabaho.
Nibadhnanti Mahabaho.
Dehe dehinam avyayam.
Dehe dehinam avyayam.
Now, Bhagavan Krishna is making very clear to us, Prakriti is Sattva, Rajas, Tamas. It is not like Prakriti is something and it has these qualities. No, Sattva, Rajas, Tamas are Prakriti. So what, I will explain all that. So just let's, wait. It's like H2O is water. Then you add sugar, then you add salt. No, H2O is water. Okay, you don't call it sweet water. It's that H2O is the constituent of water, like that. Sattva, Rajas, Tamas itself is Prakriti. And before creation starts, everything is in a state of balance. Sattva, Rajas, Tamas, there's no imbalance in that. When there is imbalance of the gunas, when there's a mixture of that, then comes the manifestation. Then creation happens. Is just, in the background, you keep this in mind. Then there's no need to go any further, but this is how creation starts. Now, how do they express? Because, okay, I understood. Sattva, Rajas, Tamas are the basic constituents of Prakriti. He's told us everything is Prakriti, this body, mind, everything. So here must be Prakriti right here. Understand? We got that. That means Sattva, Rajas, Tamas is already there. How do they express in me now? When Tamas is predominating, it is inertia. Inertia is laziness. We'll go into that even more, but inertia, not wanting to do too much. Best example is sleep. I want to sleep all the time. So inertia is tamas. Expression in us. We see that. And when we are active, doing things, it's rajas is expressing. And when we are very receptive, we're gaining knowledge, mind is quiet, that is sattva expressing in us. So, and this is our expression at all levels. Physical expression, mental expression, prana's expression at all levels. But in our mind too, we see it, call it the moods of the mind. Sometimes, very calm and beautiful. Sometimes sort of very restless, agitated. Sometimes, we are absolutely dull, not interested in anything. Mind is not absorbing anything, right? That happens too. So this is now the moods of the mind. How do they cause us problems? What do they do? What do we mean they bind us? What do they mean when they cause problems to that? And also, sattva seems like it shouldn't be causing any problem. If mind is clear, if it's calm, I'm very peaceful. Why is sattva also a problem? But let's see how it causes problems. Now, sattva does this. Very nice. But it causes problems through two things. One is by knowledge and by happiness. What do we mean by that? Right? Because what happens, we all have intelligence. And when we gain a lot of knowledge, and then subsequently certain accomplishments happen, it can bring arrogance to us. Intelligence is, yes, an expression of sattva. We need to gather knowledge because mind has to be sattvic. But that itself can cause arrogance, and then we get tossed up and down with that. Bondage means ups and downs. We are sort of holding on to something. When we have it, we're okay. When we don't have it, we get upset. When somebody insults me and says, your talk was not good, or when somebody says, you're the best speaker, right on, all this is because of sattva. I have developed certain attachments, and then I'm going up and down. Understood? Sattva can cause problems then. Then also the other thing is, sometimes, when the mind is very calm, and then I feel all my desires are fulfilled, whatever I want around me is perfect, then I say I'm very happy. But this is, again, remember, it's a state of the mind. And so what happens when sometimes I'm happy, and also I will be saying sometimes I'm sad as well. So we are identifying with the state of the mind now. So although sattvic, although my desires were fulfilled, although I'm happy, this is again dependent happiness. When that goes away, I'll say I'm sad. Bhagavan has told us over and over again, these are all states of the mind. You are not the moods of the mind. You are happiness itself. You are that ananda. So you see how sattva can also bind us? Two examples of how even sattva causes bondage. Now what about rajas? Don't we need to be active? Why is that causing problems to me? You should ask that. Because, I have to be active. I have to do things. I have to, No. Even rajas also causes attachment. What does it cause attachment for? Now, what I don't have, I have a desire for something. So I go and do actions. And then what happens? When I get it, I don't want to lose it. I want to always have it. Can anything be like that for us, where we can always keep everything? No. So first of all, any desire makes us keep doing work. Good desires are okay, but sometimes we know we don't stop at just what is dharmic. We just go after other things as well. Never happy. We want more. We want more. We want more. And then when we have something, I don't want to lose it. The fear, the anxiety. So rajas also causes problems. Rajas also causes dependence. Rajas will definitely drain our energy. And at the end of it, we are not satisfied. Results are temporary, we know, but it's still, we run after it. So rajas also causes bondage or dependence or problems. Okay. Of course, what about tamas? I'll go over what is normal and needed. Tamas is needed for life, but it also can cause problems. How does it cause problems? We become careless, we become inadvertent, when we indulge in too many things, when we sort of, we don't remember and forget important things, or we are lazy, and most important, procrastination. Right? So laziness is not, totally against our true nature. And so what happens? Sattvic person will be alert, a lazy person will be careless, inadvertent. A rajasic person will be active and a tamasic person will be lazy. So what happens? They cause problems. Our tamasic tendencies will cause us problems. Think about it, not only in the worldly level. When we have to do important things at work, when we have to do our duty, we ignore it, we do things, it causes problems. But more so at the spiritual level as well. And this is very famous in our Hindu Dharma, where people say, Arey, why spirituality now? I have so many janmas. Haven't you heard in the Hindu philosophy, we all have reincarnation and next birth we'll worry about it. Even at that level, can you imagine that even at the spiritual level, we become inadvertent. We procrastinate. This is all expression of tamas. Tamas. Because we want to remain in ignorance of our true nature. What is already the best in us, we want to be ignorant about it. So you can see tamas acts in both levels now. Okay, so you see the play of the gunas. Now we've understood what gunas are in me. We are understood now, right at the level of the mind, we are understanding, and we are seeing how they express in our life as well. Okay, so Bhagwan is pointing out all these now. And we have to understand one thing. It's not like the one day it's only sattvic, one day it's only rajasic. It's not like that. Sometimes we see that sattva will dominate. We have all three gunas in us. Sometimes we're very active. Sometimes, it's sattva is dominating. Sometimes tamasic, sometimes rajasic. This keeps going on. And no one person is free of any of these defects. But certain people have a sattvic quality. Some people are always restless, and we do see indolent, lazy people as well. Okay, but all of us have a mixture of these gunas. Okay. Now, how do we evaluate our own mind? Now, let's just look at ourselves. Hold a mirror to ourselves. When we are bright, alert, awake, vigilant, when we listen to a talk, or when we are evaluating a situation, we get the true, information comes to us. Clear understanding happens. When that's happening, understand sattva is predominating in me. When you see unnecessarily wanting to do this, jumping from one activity, half done things and running and doing, understand the unnecessary rajasic expression is happening in us. And then also understand when we sometimes feel like I don't want to do anything and it goes on for days, that our tamas is always, in manifesting at that time, and that will result only in confusion, nothing good for us. So see the play of the gunas within ourselves, evaluate ourselves in our daily, activities, see what are the sattvic, rajasic, tamasic tendencies. Most of the time, we find that in the mornings, we're most sattvic. That's the best time for classes, best time for meditation. Because nice rest, mind is fresh, it's available. Then we get busy and active. This is a cycle we go through even in day-to-day life. So just an evaluation, understanding. That's all. Now let's see. Bhagwan is now going to give us some more instructions about what happens when with our play of the gunas and where it can take us. Urdhvam gacchanti sattvastha.
Urdhvam gacchanti sattvastha.
Madhye tishtanti rajasaha.
Madhye tishtanti rajasaha.
Jaganya guna vrittisthaha.
Jaganya guna vrittisthaha.
Adho gacchanti tamasaha.
Adho gacchanti tamasaha.
Okay, so even the first one I should have read it as sattvastaha. Okay, anyway. Okay, now he says, you know what? What not only in life will this sattva, rajas and tamas will take you to the right destinations between, on depending on what we encourage, what we develop in ourselves. Even your after death, this determines your future lives as well. Now, what do you mean? Because in 8th chapter, Krishna had told us that your last thought will determine your destination. And now there's no contradiction, because the quality of our thoughts, whether it is sattvic, rajasic, tamasic, will determine our future. Whether through life, how have you led life? Through with sattvic thoughts will determine your last thought, and that will determine your future as well, right? So this is what you have to understand. Even our future births are determined by our gunas, it is said. Now here we have to think of something very important. People keep asking questions. People get very anxious. Is there life after death? What happens after death? More important for us is what kind of life are we leading now before death? After you're born, what kind of life are we leading right now? That is most important, because that will surely determine our future. More important is how we live now. It should be a sattvic life. We should lead a sattvic life right now. So what happens, Bhagwan is trying to say is, all the time if you lead a very extroverted life, too much of outside focus only, why don't you shift your attention to what is giving you life? That means you have to turn inwards. Because if you don't turn inwards, you don't understand that it is this one consciousness which is your true nature, which is giving all this life, and that is the most important thing Bhagavan wants us to focus. Otherwise, we're constantly attached to matter and energy. You have to pay attention, there's no doubt about it. But start from a place of strength. Start from the place of ease with yourself. Start from the place of peace within yourself. Then see everything afterwards. It'll be beautiful in life. So he wants us, he says, don't keep attention only on Prakriti. If you want your life to be beautiful, turn your attention to the one who's giving you life as well, he says. That's your inward nature. Turn inwards, he says. And he says in this shloka, Nanyam gunebhyah kartaram
नान्यं गुणेभ्य कर्तारं
यदा द्रष्टानुपश्यति
यदा द्रष्टानुपश्यति
गुणेभ्यश्च परं वेत्ति
गुणेभ्यश्च परं वेत्ति
मद्भावं सोऽधिगच्छति.
मद्भावं सोऽधिगच्छति.
So Bhagavan is saying, look, go beyond Prakriti. Same thing, say go beyond all this tossings of ups and downs of the mind and thinking you're this everything of the mind. I'm sad, I'm happy, or oh my God, this is somebody's insulted my looks, or somebody said I'm fat. Somebody, go beyond all those things. He's trying to say. He says, rise above that, and then know that you are that Atma Tattva. You are that supreme Satchidananda. Don't remain at the level of Prakriti. Once you understand your true nature, you are secure, you are free, is what Bhagavan is trying to say. And then once again he'll emphasize this. Gunan etan atityatrim.
Gunanetan netatyatityatreen
Dehi deha samudbhavan.
Dehi deha samudbhavan
Janma mrityu jara dukkaihi.
Janma mrityu jara dukkaihi
Vimukto mritam ashnute.
Vimukto mritam ashnute.
Again, the same thing. Bhagavan is saying, don't get caught. Don't be tossed up and down. He'll give us practical instructions, so don't worry. How do I not get caught? Arjuna will ask all those questions on our behalf, so don't worry. So he says, go beyond this Prakriti, and then you don't have to go anywhere after that. Die and no, right here. While you're living with all the faculties intact, in the midst of all family, friends and everything, live free. Live with that clear understanding that joy is your independent nature. Joy within us is not dependent on a person or a place or a situation or, things around us. Your nature is independent joy. What another person thinks of you is not you. This should be very clear to us. So the Bhagavan is trying to make sure is be clear who you are and live with that independent joy. And Ramakrishna Paramahamsa was always, has a beautiful quote, and I'll show you that. So it's now, what are we doing? We live in this house, but we think we are this house, as though this house is me. Would we ever say this whole the building is me? I would never say that. I'm in the room, but I wouldn't say this house is me. I wouldn't say that. But although sometimes we do say some little thing happens in the house, we feel like, whole thing has fallen on our head. But we have to do what we have to do, is what we have to understand. So don't get upset with every minor problem. Don't get caught in every little, shaking of ups and downs. Please understand, I am Satchidananda Swarupa, right? He says. So Ramakrishna Paramahamsa says, a boat may stay in water, but water should not stay in the boat. We as spiritual aspirants, we live here in the world, but everything of the world should not be brought into your boat and, collapse and you drown the boat. You shouldn't live like that, okay? But we live within God. Okay, now Arjuna says, all this is great. Don't be extroverted. Don't get, tossed up by the ups and downs of your mind. Turn your attention to Bhagwan. Rise above this mind. Sounds great, Bhagwan, but please, excuse me, he says. Arjuna Uvacha.
Arjuna Uvacha.
Kailingaistreen gunan etan.
Kailinge stringunanetan.
Atito bhavati prabho.
Atito bhavati prabho.
Kimacharah katam chaitan.
Kimachara katham chaitan.
Treen gunanati vartate.
Tringunanati vartate.
Give me some example, please. How does this person who's gone beyond these gunas that you talk about, who's above the mind, how does that person, how can they be unaffected? How does, this person live? Right? Bhagwan's, is there any other way? Because this Prakriti, Purusha, all those sounds very, great. I want that. I agree. No, I'm not protesting Bhagwan. I want it. But it's a little esoteric for me. Is there any other way that instead of gaining that knowledge of, and I am Satchidananda, then therefore I've gone beyond them. Is there any other way, Bhagwan? Can you please tell me? And so, of course, you have to know what is Purusha ultimately, right? But where are we right now? Is that very clear to us? And once we get the knowledge, are we able to stay with it? That I'm Satchidananda, we've heard it many times, but it's not becoming my own. Can we please start at our level? Is what Arjuna is saying. Meaning, right now, I'm still identified with my body. I'm still tossed up and down by my mind. That means I am at the level of gunas. So can you please, how do we go beyond this? Right? And you said that gunas will be with me because I'm here, living here. And also remember, very important, those gunas expressions are needed in life. We can't say, it's all bad. I just heard that. Oh, my gunas are terrible. No, we need to sleep. Right? Every night we need that rest. But how much rest? We don't want to have the expression of laziness, procrastination, and those things. We don't want it in life. We want to go beyond that, is what he's trying to say. Sleep should be, if there is excessive sleep, if we find that we're getting too sleepy, start eating sattvic food. Make your habits regular and go to sleep only when we are tired. Those things we have to remember. If we find that that's a problem, do that. And you see, if we are active, it's good, it's necessary. But is your action prompted by some type of greed, some type of jealousy, some type of competition with others, and bad, misdirected ambition, and never ending desires, or some personal, vendetta, that ego, that will cause us disturbance. So action is good, but think what is prompting you. Okay, let it be sattvic thing, where we do our duties at home, our kartavya karmas at home, which he has already told us as a worship of Bhagwan. And in Bhagavad Gita, nowhere does Bhagwan say, please give up rajasic activity, meaning give up karmas. He'll never say that. But you be careful, have the right attitude when you do your daily duties and responsibilities. Of course, there are some very smart people. They say, well, I'm doing selfless karma, but with that also people can develop ego, right? We've seen that happen in the world. But clearly it is said, if a person is doing selfless karma once in a way, yes, they'll remember it forever and talk about it. But if it becomes a nature of you, every day you're not thinking about, hey, I'm the one who's doing it, but you just want to love, you want to share, you want to, be able to do your best, thinking that it's a privilege that has come to you, right? That you are put in that position, there is no bragging about it. Now you're only exhibiting your sattvic qualities. Your sattva is now pure. So you won't develop any arrogance because you're doing selfless karma, because that is your nature, right? So understand, we have to use our mind to work in this world, because we cannot go circumvent the mind. But when we see what our qualities of the mind are and how it plays in our life, we can sort of move from one to another. From being lazy and inadvertent, we can become more active, choose right activities, make sure that we have adequate rest, eat proper diet, sleep for the time that is needed. All those things, we can make improvements, we can make changes, because we have now held a mirror and we have introspected, analyzed, and we can make the changes. Now, very nicely, Bhagwan says, I'm going to give you the example of a person who's been able to do this. Just like he gave us the Sthita Pragna Lakshana, just as he gave the Bhakta Lakshanas, and in every chapter he's added a little bit of that person who has understood their true nature, or has gone beyond, in the sense, mastered the mind in this particular, chapter. This is called Gunatita Purusha, a person. Let me tell you how this person is, so you can understand what will happen to you when you also understand the workings of your mind and you are able to master it and live. Okay, so he says, Shri Bhagavan Uvacha
Shri Bhagavan Uvacha
Prakasham cha pravrittim cha
Prakasham cha pravritti cha
Mohameve cha Pandava
Mohamevecha Pandava
Nadveshti sampravrityani
Nadveshti sampravirtani
Anivrittani kankshati
Nanivrittani kankshati
Udasinavadasinaha
Udasinavadasinaha
Gunairyo na vichalyate
Gunairneyana vichalyate
Gunavartanta ityevam
Guna vartanta ityevam
Yovatishtati nengate.
Yovatishtati nengate.
So he says, that person, some of these qualities are mentioned here. He says, that person is clearly aware of the playing of the mind. Okay? So he says, sometimes it's like this, sometimes there's also no complaint. Meaning, don't get, oh, my mind is so, this is, nothing. Just calm. Sometimes the mind behaves like this. Don't give it too much importance. Don't get attached to that. No. And sometimes, it might be good feelings that might come, a bad feeling, no evaluation. Okay, it'll go. It'll pass. So untouched, and also no sharp reactions to anything after that. So absolute clarity about the play of the own mind, clear, and at the same time aware of their true nature. So what happens as a result of this? This balance, equanimity, no matter what tossings are happening outside situations, with objects, with people, and some pain comes, some pleasure comes. There's no bouncing off the wall with everything. Somebody's looks, somebody's words. So what? They've had a bad day, that's it. Or they've had a good day today. So what? Am I changing because of that? My Satchidananda Swarupa, anything happening to that? Let me not just jump up and down is so clear to them. So this is the ease with which they live. This is the most important characters. They become so at ease with themselves. What a beautiful thing. Can you imagine? So at ease with yourself. So sometimes there's sattva, sometimes, rajas is expressing. So I don't have to bounce with everything. Right? Just like the day changes, it's okay. So no complaints is another thing in life. At ease, no complaints, right? And then very important things as we get, you'll see that all the things that I could do during even my youth, I can't do now. So why fight with that? Don't try to change it and make it better, and then you find that you can't do it, and then it leads to disappointment, get upset. Why fight? Learn to accept. So no sharp reactions, right? So most important thing is that equanimity of mind, ease with ourselves, no complaints about situations, acceptance, right? And that equanimity, knowing true nature and knowing that all these things are passing up and down. I don't have to get embroiled in everything. So Bhagwan, of course, has said all this, has given all these examples, has asked us to watch the mind, but Arjuna still sometimes feels like, okay, is there any other way, Bhagwan? And as always, Bhagwan loves us so much that he'll always give us some other alternative. And this is Mam cha yo vyabhicharine.
Mam cha yo Mam cha yo vivat charane.
I'll repeat it, don't worry. Mam cha yo
Mam cha yo
abhicharena
abhicharena
bhakti yogena sevate
bhakti yogena sevate
sagunan samatityaitan
saguna samatietan
brahma bhuyaya kalpate.
Brahma bhuya kalpate.
He says again, okay, if you find all this difficult, just worship me. I told you so many times, you worship, do the puja, worship, connect to Saguna, God, which you love. You become attached to that, right? Then I will make sure you'll get fit to understand that supreme nature. Because Bhagwan understands all of us so well. He always knows that we need additional guidance and help because we are navigating through a very distracted way of life. So Bhagwan once again says, you serve me where you are. With that devotion I've told you, that love, which is so easy for all humans, that love is easy, right? Fill your heart with love and you serve me and I will take care. It's my responsibility to give you knowledge. Now, what does it mean here? Again and again, you have to start with where we are. We knowing our weakness, that I sometimes don't like to do puja, sometimes I don't like to, cultivate values, discipline yourself, dhyana, raja yoga, all those things are so difficult. If you say, where are you? Where are you right now? Aren't you doing some duties, fulfilling some roles and responsibilities? You do that properly. But change your attitude. And always Bhagwan, if you say I do puja, I do go to the temple regularly, he does not want us to leave Bhagwan in temples and puja rooms, right? Bring it into your daily activity. If you say you love Bhagwan, please, the role, duties and responsibilities to your family and your society, let there be that same love, right? Bring that love out. okay, then what will happen? Our tamasic tendencies reduce, our rajasic tendencies reduce, and we become more and more sattvic. More and more sattvic you are, there is quietude of mind, there is clarity. We'll be able to understand whatever knowledge you're going to get. We'll be able to retain that because there's steadiness, there's concentration of our mind. And when that happens, very soon you will understand our true nature. Now, so, but oh my God, if I just do duties and responsibilities, if I do saguna where, I go and worship Bhagwan in temples and I'll follow all the things, Bhagwan. But you said I'm Satchidananda, that I am infinitude, that I am bliss, that I'm existence, consciousness, nirguna, meaning no form. Will I be able to understand that supreme truth? Bhagwan says, don't worry. I will make sure that you know that too. And so he says, Brahmano hi pratishtaham
Brahmano hi pratishtaham
amrutasya vyasya cha
amrutasya vyayasya cha
shashvatasya cha dharmasya
shashvatasya cha dharmasya
sukasya cha.
Can you repeat it, please?
Sukasya
Sukasyai
kantikasya cha.
kantikasya cha.
He says, you just do what you have to do. You love me, you worship me, not just in puja mandir, but everybody around you, right? And when you keep doing that, you will come to know me in totality, because all the people you're serving, all the murtis you're praying to, everything in essence is me only. That Nirguna Brahman that you want is the expression is all this. So don't worry, you will come to me. So very beautifully in this chapter, very practical chapter of this 14th chapter, Bhagwan Krishna is making us understand the workings of our own mind. When we understand the workings of our own mind, how it expresses in my life, I can hold a mirror to myself, and then only can I make the necessary changes. If I don't stand in front of a mirror, I don't know if my bindi is in the right place. Maybe, it's gone to the side, or something has come down on my face. I had no clue. Right? Or while I was cooking, make some dosa batter and I've struck, put it on my cheeks. I have no idea. Only when I stand in front of the mirror can I see all this and make changes. Please introspect, Bhagwan is saying, because you can actually, through the work, you can see the workings of your mind, understand the workings of your mind, and use the tools to go beyond, in the sense, go from one to another, bring those changes within yourself, and then become that quiet mind and understand your true nature, which is the true nature of everything. You then live with ease, you then accept things without fighting everything, and then you are able to remain with a balanced approach in life. So very beautiful, very practical chapter. Okay, so now Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinah, Sarve Santu Niramayaha, Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu, Ma Kaschid Dukha Bhag Bhavet. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.